44 games are on the docket for the NAIA football slate in Week 10 of the 2025 season. 19 teams are still undefeated in conference or divisional play, and I have had my share of dark chocolate before the broadcast tonight. That's what I was told would take care of my throat and that we'd be ready to go tonight. Good evening. Welcome to College Football This Week. I'm Joey McWilliams from a chilly studio in a chilly southeastern Oklahoma, and that's where we are. Fall has arrived, and it's gotten a little bit cool, and it's actually one of those nights where I was looking forward to turn the heat on the studio, and the heat decided it wasn't going to cooperate. So we'll just do the best we can with what we have. Glad you're watching tonight. Let us know from where you are watching. I would appreciate that. And what NAIA football team you're going to be cheering for heading into Week 10. You know what? We have a lot on the docket. Lots to talk about tonight. Shout out to Jeff, by the way. I have a really good idea for whom he's going to be cheering in Week 10. Good game ahead of you. You came off a very good game last week, Jeff, so props to the Stangs as they continue to roll. All right, let's look really quickly at something that's relatively hot off the presses tonight. Shout out from Utah, another time zone. So thanks for watching, Jeff. I hope that you've had a chance to watch some Stangs football along the way, made the trip over at least once or twice from Utah to get there. This, again, relatively hot off the presses as, shout out to Dave, too. We're trying to get this graphic up here. What's going to happen here? Dave, thanks for watching tonight. And for everyone else, thank you all for watching, letting us know from where you are watching tonight and also what team you're going to be cheering for in Week 10. Okay, let's see if this will show up. Yeah, I think it's going to show up here. Give it just a second here. I say relatively hot off the presses, and that is because this was posted just a couple of hours ago from NAIF Ball. Corey and the gang out there. Of course, he's in a probably a little bit warmer area of the country in Florida tonight. Listen, no complaints tonight. It's warm enough in Oklahoma over the course of the year, so I'm all right to be chilly a little bit. Top 10 or top 25, actually, this is the media poll, and we'll get to one number at the end. This is very interesting, too. Baker in at 25, Texas Wesleyan 24, Evangel up to number 21 in the media poll this week, and then Olivet Nazarene dropped just a bit after the loss last week, but didn't drop out of the top 20. William Penn back in the top 20, in at number 19. The Statesmen are 7-1 on the season, so props to them and the way that they've been playing. Thurston still in the top 16. College of Idaho heading for a showdown with a top 10 Carroll team sometime soon, both undefeated in the Frontier West. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Morningside, the Stangs. And Jeff, good. I'm glad you've been able to be in Iowa for the last 2 weeks to watch Morningside. One of those games I'm sure you enjoyed just a little bit more than the other one. Morningside at number 11. OUAZ still undefeated and in at number 12 in the media poll. Top 10 looks like this. Carroll is in at number 9. Indiana Wesleyan back in the top 10. Campbellsville falls out. Lindsey Wilson at 8. Dort, a very deserving 7, and possibly, I would say, maybe even higher than that, but it's just tough to break your way in. Top 5, including Friends, Montana Tech, Kaiser, Benedictine, and Grandview. So it is a very solid top 25, I would say, in all of that. And again, Morningside in at number 11. I know we have some folks watching for Morningside here tonight and cheering them on. We'll get to them a little bit later on. We have a slate to look at. We'll talk about all the games on the docket, and we'll move through them fairly quickly tonight, learning to make sure that the voice works out. Then we'll get to the top, We'll look at those teams with the driver's seat or sitting in the driver's seat for an automatic qualifying bid. Still not ready to push too much on that at-large. We may look at that a little bit more a little bit later on. And then we'll talk about our 4 things that we may bet the barn on. Just to make sure, just to clarify, we have no affiliation with the NBA with any kind of money whatsoever. It's a fictitious barn that we're betting. And, of course, no underground poker games going on. Hey, Robert, thanks for watching from OKC. And the Bulldogs are also on the Week 10 slate as well. We'll get to the Concordia game just a little bit later on. All right, let's talk about them really quickly. Again, 44 games on the docket. We're going to start out back east. It's always out west and back east. Have you ever noticed that? I didn't come from the east, so I guess I'm really not going back east, but yeah, close enough. Warner's at 1-6, Southeastern's at 5-2, and the Fire I believe, have an opportunity for a playoff spot. We'll talk a little bit more about their chances later on, but still possibly for that at-large bid. Southeastern is 10-0 all-time against Warner. Warner, however, stopped a 13-game losing streak, beating Ave Maria last week 33-7, and Southeastern came off a victory over St. Thomas last week. Kaiser is still undefeated at 7-0, and Ave Maria with that loss to Warner 2-5 right now. It's the 8th meeting all time. Ave Maria won 10-7 over Kaiser back in 2018, and that's the last time that the Gyrenes beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks have never lost a Sun Conference game, and well, I think this would be a favorable matchup for Kaiser coming into this one. Weber International 4-4, Florida International 4-3, sixth meeting between the two. And Weber International coming off that 45-point drubbing at the hands of Kaiser last week, trying to change gears. Florida Memorial promise at the start of the season, and excuse me, that promise continuing against Thomas, 85-7 last week, a 78-point victory. Thomas, 0-8 right now, taking on St. Thomas. Third meeting between those two programs. St. Thomas probably out of the hunt for a playoff spot after that loss against Southeastern last week. However, looks to get a victory and turn things around. Thomas coming in on a 12-game losing streak. It'll be the first meeting ever between Reinhardt and Rio Grande. The Red Storm still haven't picked up a victory in 2025. Reinhardt beating Bluefield last week. Well, actually, that was 2 weeks ago, 35-12. And Reinhardt is 4-3 on the year. Rio Grande, we'll say this for the Red Storm, though, scored 14 points last week. In the previous 6 games, had scored only 12 points combined. So could be going in the right direction there. Bluefield gets the big victory last week over U-Pike. An upset there, even though it really wasn't in ranking. It was still an upset on the field. 43-40, the Rams over the Bears in that one. Bluefield on the road this week, taking on Kentucky Christian, who was upended by Union Commonwealth last week. 15th meeting between these two schools, and they're both tied at 7-7 all-time in the series. Bluefield won by a point, 20-19 in 2024. Union Commonwealth, again, after a big victory, 3-5 now on the road at Pikeville. And Pikeville looking to turn things around. Xavier Malone passing for 367.4 yards per game. That's tops in the NAIA. To the Mid-South, Cumberland's 4-4. Cumberland 4-4. 29th meeting between the two, and it's even there as well. Cumberland's 15-13 all-time against Cumberland, and won by 24 in 2024. Campbellsville is 6-1 now after the loss against Cumberland last week. On the road at Faulkner, 12th meeting between the two. Faulkner owns a slim advantage in the series, 6-5, but Campbellsville won 46-7 last year, and the Tigers looking to turn things around after their first loss of the season. Georgetown is at 5-2, and Bethel 3-3. The Wildcats lost for the first time in Mid-South play last week, and they are still in the hunt. Bethel also tied at the top of the list in red zone success for the season. However, the Wildcats haven't been there that often. Only 12 times in the red zone this year, 9 touchdowns, 3 field goals, been able to score every single time they've made it. That's tied at the top of the list. Indiana Wesleyan 6-2 at Taylor 5-3. This one possibly for a playoff spot. We'll see. Indiana Wesleyan is undefeated in Mid-East Division play, and the Wildcats have been putting up fantastic numbers over the course of the season. 50.8 points per game, 4th in the NAI. Taylor, 45.9 points per game. That's 7th in the NAIA. Let's talk about the two programs and the offenses, and really, that is the difference between the two. Indiana Wesleyan, 352.1 passing yards per game, 2nd in the NAI. Taylor, 301.8 rushing yards per game. Dichotomy of offensive styles there. By the way, Taylor 2nd in the NAI, of course, behind only Friends in that rushing category. But Indiana Wesleyan has put together 24 takeaways. That's tops in the nation in the NAI. 9 fumble recoveries, 15 interceptions, Can Indiana Wesleyan hold off that strong Taylor running game? This really was the game last year for Taylor. This and the Marion game, the only two losses for the Trojans last year, and Coach Mingo really is this one the one that kept them out of the playoffs? Definitely would like some vengeance in this game if they can get that one. Lawrence Tech at 1-6, at Madonna 1-7. Fifth meeting between the two, and the Blue Devils have won the previous 4. Siena Heights continuing to roll now. The Saints in the farewell tour, 4-3 on the season at Defiance, 1-7. Second meeting all time. Saints won by 45 last year. Siena Heights also undefeated in divisional play there in the Mideast, and a playoff spot still could be at hand for Siena Heights. A long way to go in the season in these final 3 weeks. Olivet Nazarene and St. Francis, both at 5-2. This again, possibly for a playoff spot, could be an at-large bid on the line here. Both of these teams have lost to Marion in the last 2 weeks, and so looking to see if they can secure a spot at second in the Midwest and trying to keep that 2 in the loss column. You don't want to have any more than that over the next 3 weeks. Really quickly, shout out to Lenny. Hey, thanks for watching tonight, Lenny. Third person in the chat tonight with the roll Stangs. And, of course, the Stangs are continuing to roll. We'll talk about them a little bit later on, but thanks for being along for the ride tonight, Lenny. St. Francis of Illinois, 3-4 at Marion, and the Knights are 7-1. Marion, 9-1 all time in this series. This is the 11th meeting, and the Knights have just owned the Saints in this series. St. Xavier, 5-3 at Judson, and the Eagles 0-8 on the season. Fifth meeting all time, with the Cougars having won each of the previous 4. Judson right now, along with the 8 games this season that the Eagles have lost, a 17-game losing streak overall. Grandview is 7-0 at Graceland, 3-4. 13th meeting between the two, and Grandview has won each of the previous 12. We thought this might look a little bit different in the preseason, of course, without C.J. Brooks at the helm. We'll see if he's able to make the comeback for next year. However, T.J. Shanks has filled in, and rather admirably last week, as Graceland got the 12-point victory over Peru State. Grandview, don't forget, coming in now on a 67-game regular season winning streak. That's an incredible number right there. Now, I do know a team up there in Sioux City that had an even larger number than that, made it all the way to 75, so Grandview can't top that this season, but we'll see if they're able to hang on and put themselves in a position to get near that number for 2026. Peru State 4-4 at William Penn. We mentioned the Statesmen are 7-1 on the season, and Peru State is 8-3 all time, having won 28-21 in 2024, and the Bobcats have won 7 straight in this series. Coach Benavidez trying to turn the tables on this one and keep William Penn in the hunt for a playoff spot. It would have to be likely an at-large bid in the Heart North. Central Methodist 2-6 at Culver Stockton, 4-4. Central Methodist owns this series, 47-34-3 all time. The last time that Central Methodist played Culver Stockton was 2023. The Eagles won, and it was the only win of the season for CMU back in 2023. Clark is 1-7 on the road in Davenport at St. Ambrose, 3-5 on the year. Second meeting all time. The Fightin' Bees won 50-22 in 2024. Baker has won its last 4 games after starting 0-3. The Wildcats are 4-3 on the road, heading to St. Louis to take on Missouri Baptist, 2-5. Missouri Baptist stopped a 5-game slide with the victory last week, 9-7 over Missouri Valley. Speaking of the Vikings, Missouri Valley is 3-4 right now on the road at Benedictine in Atchison. Benedictine won 38-14 last year and has won 8 straight in the series, 6 straight overall this season, and is putting out 51.8 points per game. That is good enough for third in the NAIA. William Woods is 1-7. The Owls are on the road at Mid-America Nazarene. Pioneers still fighting in this season, 5-3 overall. Mid-America Nazarene won 70-7 over William Woods last year. Dork to the GPAC is 7-0. The Defenders are at the top of the standings in the GPAC, taking on Hastings on the road in Nebraska. The Broncos are 4-4, 18th meeting all time, with Dork 9-8, a slim advantage in this one. They won 58-0 in 2024. This series has gone back and forth. Hastings, Dordt, Hastings, Dordt, Hastings, Dordt, Hastings, Dordt. It looks like it could be Hastings' turn this year. Dordt putting up 258.7 rushing yards per game. That's third in the NAI, and giving up only 8.7 points per game. That is second in the NAI. Northwestern is at 4-3 and turning some heads now after a shaky start to the season on the road at Midland. 4-4, 55th meeting between the two, and Northwestern has won 23 straight in this series. Midland's last victory in this series was a 30-7 win in 2001. Morningside 6-2 on the road at Doane, and I know there are a lot of folks in the chat tonight that are interested in this game. 6-2. Doane is 1-6, 24th meeting between the two. The Mustangs are 21-2 all time, have won 9 straight in the series, and you have to go back a little bit. Dordt won 49-48 in the season finale in 2014. Now, this is very interesting as well. Beat Morningside in that. That's the last time that Doane really had a run like this. It was part of a 13-game winning streak that went from 2014 to 2015. Beat Morningside along the way. Guess who put a stop to Doane's winning streak? That's right. The Mustangs were the one who stopped that 13-game winning streak for Doane back then. 49-48 the last time that the Tigers beat the Mustangs. You look at the records there, 6-2 and 1-6. You look at Morningside, 47.3 points per game, fifth in the NAI, 545 passing yards per game, or total offense per game. That's tops in the NAI. 340.4 passing yards per game, third in the NAI in that category. Chevalier with 30 passing touchdowns behind a very strong line, and I know Jeff is in favor of that as well, keeping him protected there to throw the ball. He's connected for touchdown passes 30 times, tops in the NAI. He's found Drew Sellen 13 of those 30 times for touchdown passes, and that is also at the top of the NAI. By the way, Sellen's receiving yards right at 125 yards per game, also at the top of the list in the NAIA. Morningside's offensive numbers are big, but when we talk about Bet the Barn tonight, we're actually going to be looking at defense. So stick around for that segment a little bit later on. Briarcliff is 5-4. Concordia is 5-2. 23rd meeting between the two. Concordia has won 6 straight in the series with a 19-3 victory, 19-3 overall in this series, and a 63-13 victory over Briarcliff back in 2024. The Bulldogs need to get a little defense with the offense there. It's been a tough couple of games for Concordia coming in. That 59-21 loss to Morningside last week, and seeing if Concordia can turn it around. Still, opportunities ahead, and Robert, I would say that the season definitely is not over for the Bulldogs, but last year at 8-2, they were on the outside looking into that playoff spot. Winning out would mean a win over Dordt a little bit later on as well, so we'll see how that plays out. But that would still be 9-2. I'd say a victory over Dordt late in the season there, if Dordt were still undefeated. That would go a long way toward getting the attention of the selection committee. Dakota Wesleyan at 3-5, at Mount Marty 4-4, fifth meeting between the two. Mount Marty got its only win in the series last year, 24-17. Evangel, as we move to the KCAC, 6-2 at Tabor, 3-5. Evangel has won all 3 previous meetings, including winning by 16 in 2024, by a touchdown 14-7 in 2023, and 6-0 all the way back in 1981. In the fall of 1981, I was in 5th grade. I was a 10-year-old little Joey back then. So there we go. Let's go to the comments here really quickly. And you know what, Robert, you're right. Tough conference means tough job to make the playoffs. And it's the thing about the GPAC. It really is. There's a lot to be said for the GPAC. I would say, obviously, the Frontier Conference gets recognition, and, of course, it's deservedly so. First part of the season, I think the Mid-South deserved to get all the attention because it had fared so well against the other conferences in non-conference play. Well, you get into conference play, and there's a lot to be said for the competition within the GPAC, too. Avila's 1-7 in the KCAC, back to the KCAC, on the road at Bethel 2-6, and it's the 9th meeting between these two programs. Bethel won last year by a field goal. Ottawa's at 3-5, at Bethany also 3-5. 89th meeting, the Braves have owned it 54-31-3 all time, but Bethany won 13-0 last year. To the Bissell division of the KCAC, where McPherson at 7-1 is on the road in Winfield. Southwestern with back-to-back games at home. Lost last week, and they turn things around and get the win. The Mound Builders are 6-2 this season. 64th meeting between the two. Southwestern, again, owns this series, 48-18 all time. Won 41-17 last year and went to the playoffs and actually got a win in the playoffs as well. They were able to make enough noise to get that home game. And, the selection committee sent St. Francis of Indiana down to Winfield. Southwestern got the win in the first round. I think there's a possible playoff spot on the line in this one. Both of these teams have that loss to Friends. St. Mary, 2-6 at Sterling, 1-7, 25th meeting in this series. Sterling won 26-25 in 24. Just some interesting numbers there. Kansas Wesleyan on the road at Friends, and that's where I'm going to be on Saturday in Wichita. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Making the trip up there. This one's going to be taking place at the Division 2, the AA baseball field there in Wichita. Should be a lot of fun here. 6-2 Kansas Wesleyan Friends, 8-0, 72nd meeting between the two. Friends won 28-26 last year on a last-second 40-yard field goal, and that stopped a 9-game slide to Kansas Wesleyan in the series. Both teams are coming off of victories last week. Kansas Wesleyan, the defense is giving up only 10.8 points per game. That's fourth in the NAIA. However, they're taking on the leading team in the nation in scoring. The Falcons putting up 54.4 points per game, tops of the list there, and also 465 rushing yards per game. That is a crazy, did I mention crazy number? And again, at this pace, it would take into the 12th game for Friends, which would mean a playoff spot if they were playing in the playoffs, to beat last year's record, which they set 5,351 yards. It took Friends 13 games to get that number. They could beat that in 12 games this year. We'll see how that plays out. We'll have a lot of content on Saturday from Wichita, and I invite you to tune in. Programming note, by the way, on this one, the Midwest Sports Saturday broadcast will begin either 11 o'clock or 11:30. It's possible there's an 11:15 time in there, but I think it's going to be on the half hour there, either 11 or 11:30 Central Time. We'll be broadcasting from Wichita, Kansas, again, on site for the Kansas Wesleyan Friends game. Lots of content over the day. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. That would be great. Secondly, and I rarely say turn on notifications, but this one I would say turn on notifications. We'll have some video throughout the day on this one. I know you'll have a lot going on. Of course, Morningside, Concordia, lots of folks to watch there, and we'll keep up with all those games, but we'll try to bring you some even behind-the-scenes stuff as well from Wichita. So we'll be up there on that one for Midwest Sports Saturday. To the Sooner Athletic Conference, but before we do, a shout-out to Old Man, who's late to the show. Hate to say Old Man, but, that's the name that's in front of me, so I have to. Listening late to the show, enjoy listening. Hey, thanks a lot. Go Rio. We've already gone through there, the Red Storm, hopefully with another opportunity there to make something happen this week. Texas Wesleyan 6-2 at Goodwill, Oklahoma, out in no man's land. Oklahoma Panhandle State 3-4, 8th meeting between the two. OPSU won the first 3 in this series. Texas Wesleyan has won the most recent 4 in the series. Both teams coming off of wins last week. Nelson, it's been a struggle for the Lions this year. They are 1-6 on the road at Wayland Baptist. We have been promoting Coach Hinojosa's team. We'll continue to promote them. 0-2 to start the season, 5 straight since then. Nelson owns an 8-4 record all-time in the series, but Wayland Baptist won by 20 last year. And we think this is a favorable matchup for Wayland Baptist in this game, trying to push it to 6-2 in Sooner Athletic Conference play. Again, unfortunately for the Pioneers, the 2 losses are both in conference play, so it puts them in a bad situation there, trying to keep on going, see if they can get in and make some noise for a possible at-large bid. It would be tough to get around both Texas Wesleyan and OUAZ in this. Speaking of the Spirit, they're 6-0 and hosting Arkansas Baptist. Third meeting between the two, and check out these numbers. OUA beats Arkansas Baptist last year 85-12. 2 years ago, 83-0. A combined 168-12 scoring in that for OUAZ over Arkansas Baptist, and the Buffaloes are on the road in Arizona for this one. Arizona Christian at College of Idaho. The Yotes are 6-1 and undefeated in divisional play. It's been another struggle of a season for Arizona Christian since ACU and the Firestorm have been in the Frontier Conference, and traveling to Caldwell is not an easy place to play either. Though one of the big ones of the day, two teams that are undefeated in division play. The Rocky Mountain Battling Bears, 3-4 on the year, but undefeated in Frontier East play, taking on the Montana Tech Ore Diggers. Shout out to Henchman 21. And the Diggers are 8-0. How about those Diggers from Butte? Well, they're still undefeated, not only in divisional play, but overall as well. Montana Tech has a 72-45-1 lead in the series. That's right. Unofficially, I have this as the 119th time these two teams have met. Now, of course, a number of years in the Frontier Conference in which teams played each other twice over the course of the season. So there you go in all of that. 34-24, Montana Tech and Rocky Mountain have already played once this year, and it was an 11-point victory in the season opener for the Ore Diggers, 8-0 back then. All right, and Lenny, hey, Lenny, thanks for watching tonight. Lenny with the super chat there, so appreciate you watching and always being a part of the broadcast. Stick around, folks, to everyone, and we'll continue on as we go through the slate right now, wrapping up the Week 10 slate. And you might say, Joey, man, you've been cruising through these games a little bit more quickly tonight. I have. I'm trying to figure out what is wrong with the throat and the vocal cords and everything. And here's the deal. I teach. I mean, I am talking over the course of the day. I'm an instructor, do lots of other things where I use my voice all the time, and I am not even kidding you. I'm not joking about this. Everything has been fine till I sit down in this chair lately, and so I don't know if there's something in the studio that needs to be fixed. I don't know. We'll play it on through any way around. But thanks again, Lenny. Thanks for being a part of the broadcast tonight. Shout out to you and the super chat there. Montana Tech 8-0, Rocky Mountain 3-4. Again, the Ore Diggers already have the Battling Bears number this year. Can they continue to keep this undefeated streak going and move on into that playoff spot? I'm not going to say favorable matchup for either one. This one's at Rocky Mountain, so a little bit different look, and we know that the Battling Bears will be ready in this one, but I don't know if you can prepare for this Tech team or not. It's been tough, and I think that they're going to be a challenge for anyone in the regular season. Montana State Northern 1-7 at Dickinson State. 6-game slide for the Blue Hawks. 18th meeting between the two. Dickinson State owns a slim 9-8 advantage. And also, second time these two teams have faced each other this year. The Blue Hawks won 33-16 already in 2025. So you know that Dickinson State can get the win. This time, it's going to be there in North Dakota. We'll see how it plays out. Eastern Oregon, 3-4 this season at Montana Western, 5-3. Montana Western won twice in 2024 and has won 5 straight in the series. Eastern Oregon lost 7-0 to College of Idaho on a defensive touchdown late in the game last week. Montana Western beat Simpson by 65 last week. Carroll is 6-1 on the road at Southern Oregon, 3-5. 20th meeting between the two. Carroll owns a slim advantage in the series, 10-9 all time, won by 4 in 2024. Both teams coming off wins over programs that, at least record-wise, have been inferior this season. And Dakota State at Mayville State. Don't know where my Mayville State comment folks are in the chat, but this is the 40th meeting between the two. The two teams split last year. Dakota State won 7-0. Mayville State won 13-12, the slimmest of margins right there. Mayville State comes in with a strong rushing game, but has it made a difference? And that is the key there. Again, 5-4 on the season. I felt like from the summer that Dakota State, if there were any team from the North Star, other than Dickinson State, who we figured would come in and that wouldn't skip a beat, clearly that has not been the case for the Blue Hawks. Again, 2-6 right now and currently on a 6-game slide. I thought Dakota State could come in and maybe cause some disruption in the conference. And they're 5-2 right now. For Dakota State, 5-2, only a number of times that this has happened for the Dakota State Trojans through a 7-game period. As a matter of fact, including this year, it's happened only 8 times. They started 6-1 in 93, 91, 76, and all the way back in 1957. And it was a 7-0 start in 1977. That was the best start on record for Dakota State. You have to go back for that one quite a few years, 48 seasons, as a matter of fact. So Dakota State in pretty much high air, rarefied air for the Trojans. We'll see how they're able to do on the road against a former North Star rival and current conference rival in Mayville State. And it's always a great day to be a Comet. We found out that is the case as well. So let's go ahead and let's look here really quickly at some numbers. Teams that are in the driver's seat for an automatic qualifying bid. Again, we're not talking a lot about at-large tonight, but let's go ahead and look at these automatic qualifiers, and we're just going to go through the conferences here. We start, where are we? Let's go ahead and start with the Appalachian. Starting with the Appalachian tonight, Reinhardt in the driver's seat. So teams that really, if they definitely have their fate in their own hands. If Reinhardt wins out, they don't need any help from anybody. Reinhardt 3-0 in conference play. Now, I put Pikeville up there, and even though Pikeville had a loss last week, a bit of an upset loss for Bluefield to come in and get the win there, Pikeville is also in a position, if the Bears run the table and win against Reinhardt in the season finale, Pikeville would get the automatic bid from the Appalachian because it would be head-to-head. However, Pikeville could have some other things go on. Reinhardt could lose a game. Somebody else might have something in there where there's a 3-way tie, and we know those things cause chaos. So Reinhardt in the driver's seat and definitely in control of its own destiny, even though Pikeville still has a very good chance for that playoff spot. Let's move on to the Frontier. Carroll and College of Idaho, those two teams both with their destiny in their own hands, and they will meet on the field next Saturday, November 8th. Big game there between the two. In the Frontier East, Montana Tech and Rocky Mountain, they play on Saturday, and the winner of that one definitely with the inside track for the automatic qualifying bid. Dakota State would need some help, but still with an opportunity there, and Dakota State has lost to Montana Tech, but takes on Rocky Mountain. So if Rocky Mountain gets the win over Montana Tech this week, then Dakota State gets a win over Rocky Mountain next week. You have that 3-way tie. All kinds of things can happen. However, the teams currently in the driver's seat right now, totally in control of their own destiny, are Montana Tech and Rocky Mountain. The Great Plains, Morningside, I know you guys don't want to hear this one, but not necessarily in control all the way. Dordt wins out, definitely they're there. If Concordia were to come in, however, get a win, then Morningside gets a win, and you have a 3-way tie, that could cause chaos. That's why I'm saying not everything is in your own hands there. However, if Morningside wins out, including a victory over Dordt, I would have to say Morningside has that inside track for the automatic qualifying bid. Dordt definitely in control of its own destiny with no losses in conference play and no losses overall there. So Morningside still with an opportunity, and I would say a very good chance for that automatic qualifying bid. Hart North, Grandview in control of its own destiny. Culver Stockton is still in there with an outside chance because Culver Stockton and Grandview still haven't played yet this season. In the Hart South, Baker and Benedictine, both undefeated in conference or in divisional play, Mid-America Nazarene, we've seen that 3-way tie at the top of the Hart South 2 of the last 3 years. And could it happen again? It could. Mid-America Nazarene's loss is to Baker. And so Baker would need to beat, or Benedictine would need to beat Baker. Mid-America Nazarene would need to beat Benedictine, which has happened in the last 2 years as well. But those teams still in control and in the driver's seat are Baker and Benedictine there in the Hart South. KCAC Bissell, Friends, and Kansas Wesleyan play on Saturday in Wichita. And the winner of that one definitely in control. Both teams, though, still in control of their own destiny heading into Saturday's game. Evangel at the top of the Kessinger and yet to play Tabor this season. Midwest, Marion has wins over Olivet Nazarene, and both Olivet Nazarene and St. Francis of Indiana definitely in control of its own destiny right there. To the Mideast, 3 teams still without a loss in divisional play to play on Saturday. Indiana Wesleyan and Taylor in that one. And Siena Heights, you have to say, is the sentimental favorite there in that division because the Saints are playing in their final season. Mid-South, this is just a mess. Lindsey Wilson, 3-1. Bethel, Campbellsville, and Georgetown, 2-1. Lots of different scenarios there. And with no team undefeated in divisional play, it's tough to say that anyone is completely in control of their own destiny here. But those are the teams that currently have only one loss in the Mid-South. The Sooner, OUAZ, and Texas Wesleyan are headed for a collision course game a little bit later on in the season. Louisiana Christian's on the outside looking in after that loss to Texas Wesleyan. But the Wildcats also have to take on the Spirit a little bit later on. The Spirit's schedule backloaded here with the 2 toughest opponents in conference play near the end of the schedule. We'll see how this plays out for the Spirit under new head coach Riley Murphy. To the Sun Conference, and Kaiser, we've mentioned before, has yet to lose a Sun Conference game, period, in the history of the program. Southeastern, one of a few teams that have only one conference loss. Southeastern is the only one, though, that hasn't yet played Kaiser with that opportunity to knock the Seahawks from the ranks of the unbeaten. And at that point, would have that head-to-head matchup win over Kaiser. But again, still things not necessarily in their control if other things happen before that game is played. Kaiser, however, wins out, gets the automatic bid, no question about that. So that is a look at teams who are in control of their own destiny. 19 teams, either conference or division-wise, still without a loss. And you look through there and you saw all 9 of them there with all 13 divisions. So we take a deep breath, and now's the part of the show where you get to play along, and I hope that everyone will do this as well. We're going to look now, and you know what? Let's take an opportunity. Let's get a breather first. Let's take a drink of some cold water. Isn't it supposed to be lukewarm water that you take that's good for the throat? It's cold water tonight. Sorry about that. We're looking at betting the barn tonight. Now, if you've never played along for Bet the Barn, we are setting some lines because Vegas has been derelict in its duty and has not given any real lines for betting for the NAIA. Okay, that's probably not true. We don't need to be betting on the NAIA games. But fictitiously, well, realistically, there is a barn. It's right out there. And it's a nice barn. The house I'm in is literally 100 years old this year. The barn, I don't think it's quite 100 years old, but it's pretty old. Now, Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet tells me it's a carriage house, but it's pretty much a barn. Anyway, so what would we do? What kind of numbers are out there that would make us say, hey, listen, I'm willing to bet the barn on this? And I'm going to present some lines here that I think they're fair. Now, Vegas, I don't think is going to be hiring me anytime soon to set lines. But if you want to play along here, we have 4 things tonight. And let us know in the chat. Play along with us tonight and let us know in the chat. And we'll post your comment so we can see it and you'll be on record. And if you're watching this, not live, but if you're watching this just on demand, put it in the comments section what your Bet the Barn picks are. And we'll talk about them on Sunday after all the games are played. All right. Let's go and let's look right now. Briarcliff at Concordia. We said this was a big matchup, and we don't have Morningside in the Bet the Barn this week. Just letting everybody know. We picked on Morningside and Friends quite a bit. So this one includes Concordia. Briarcliff has been giving up 30.3 points a game. Concordia has been giving up 31.4 points a game. Definitely in the lower half of the NAIA standings in that particular category. Now, I'm not sure that either one, I know both these teams can score. We know Concordia can score. Robert, I have no doubt about Concordia's ability to score, but are they going to be able to hold off what Briarcliff does as well? We are officially here on Midwest Sportsnet. We're setting this line right here at 63.5 points. The over-under for points in this game at 63.5, and we'll see what kind of numbers come up here, because one of these teams may just step up on defense. This could be that game where Concordia steps up on defense and shuts down Brock Saya and that passing attack. Could the Chargers step up on the road? This one's going to be in Seward. It's a tough place to do that. So let's see here. And folks already putting their picks here. Jeff's going to say under, taking under 63.5 points. You're saying the defenses are going to, at least one of the other defenses here is going to step up in this game. All right. Robert says Concordia over, taking the over on that one. I kind of figured. On that. And I have to ask, anyone else picking? Still got some opportunity to pick here before we go to the next one. Robert, do you think that Concordia is going to take advantage of its own points in this one? You think they might be able to put up 63.5 by themselves? 64 by themselves? Anyone else? Dave is usually a part of this, so I'll give Dave an opportunity, see if he still can play along here. Oh, Jeff's going Concordia for the win too. All right, now Jeff, I'm not putting any lines down for teams, but Jeff's going to go ahead and say Concordia the over and the win there. All right, Lenny. Thanks, Lenny, for playing along, taking the under in this one. All right, Dave also taking the under in this one. I don't know. I think this may be just about everyone who plays along regularly, but if you're new to the channel, go ahead, put it in the chat, play along. I'll go ahead. I'll close out this one officially, at least from my standpoint. You still put it in there. And I'm going to say the Bulldogs put enough points on there that no matter what, I'm not going to say they're going to put 64 points on the board. But I'm going to go ahead and take the over. I'm not going to be swayed, at least not in the first one. And if you're new to the channel, that means that Dave has swayed your pick. You've been swayed. Not swayed in this one, at least. So I'm taking the over. And the reason I post that up there is I want to be on record, too. So everyone knows. I have to go back, and when I look at these and I make sure I get all the picks down, sometimes I don't recall what I picked. And I'll be, looking at numbers on Saturday and going, all right, I think I got that one right. And I will go back and look at the video, and I did not get it right. So that is okay. All right, next one. Here we go. Next one on the list tonight of our Bet the Barn picks here. This one's a prop bet. This one is a prop bet. Now, at Midwest Sportsnet, we picked Pikeville to win the Appalachian in the preseason. We thought that Pikeville would come back and get that automatic bid in the Appalachian Conference and get the win over Reinhardt. Probably would run undefeated. I said that they would run undefeated through the Appalachian. Well, Bluefield said, no, that's not going to happen this year. However, Pikeville still has a chance to get that automatic bid. We just got through talking about the fact that Reinhardt in the driver's seat. But last week in the loss, Xavier Malone, who has led the NAIA in passing yards all season long, and 4 of the 6 games coming in passed for better than 70% over the course of the day. Last week didn't get that. Bluefield on defense took advantage of it. They get the win 43-40. Now Pikeville still put 40 points on the board, but Malone had less than 300-yard passing, and he had like 53% completion on the day. So just not like what he's done all season long. So here's the prop bet. Does Xavier Malone at least get his average? Over or under his average? So if you're betting this one, here we go. Over under on Xavier Malone getting his average. And the average for the season is 367.7. He stopped the 400-yard passing mark 4 times this year already. So it definitely could happen. I mean, obviously, his average, 367.7. So please, on this one, put Malone over or under. Malone over or under. And really quickly, while we're on this, you guys are picking this back to the previous pick. Dave says if Van Cleese goes back to receiver, it will go over. Fair. That's fair. We still have you on record, Dave, is saying under, though. We got you on record there. And Lenny agreeing with that one, too. All right, Malone over or under. And by the way, Pikeville, I want to remind everyone who Pikeville is playing this week. Coming off the loss, Pikeville is at home taking on Union Commonwealth. And Union Commonwealth, 3-4, but Union Commonwealth hasn't seen a quarterback like Xavier Malone, you'd have to go back to the Cumberland's game. That was a season opener for the Bulldogs, and Drew Gregg lit him up. He passed for a ton of yards. I think that the total offense in that game for the Patriots was like close to 500 yards of total offense, and a lot of it was Drew Gregg. So Xavier Malone, the first quarterback since then for Union Commonwealth. All right, let's get some of these on record. Let's see. We've got Robert. Robert says Malone under, and Jeff says Malone under. Dave says Malone over. Lenny with Malone over. Anyone else taking a shot at this one? And let's see. All right, I'll tell you where I am on this one. I almost have to pick the over on this one because I picked Pikeville to win the conference, and I have to stay with that pick. Pikeville still has a chance to win the conference, and I think that Malone has to do well against Union Commonwealth to get that in there. So I am going to, on record, we have Malone over on that one. So we have 2 and 3. Okay, I guess these are pretty good lines. So lots of action on both sides of it. Fairly confident in the lines there. Let's go to number 3. Did I say we weren't doing Morningside this week? Well, I was wrong. All right, we do have a Morningside Bet the Barn pick here. But you know what? Let's see. For all the folks who have vested interest in Morningside, guys, we're going to look at the defense. And Morningside got a defensive score last week. First defensive score of the season for Morningside. So here is the prop bet for this one. Will Morningside get another defensive score this week? Does the defense step up and say, hey, I'm excited about this? All right, really quickly, Robert, have to go. Last 2 picks in a minute. That's all right, Robert. Go ahead and go. We'll see you in a moment. Here is did I pick it? Where is it? There we go. Morningside. Do they get a defensive score in this game? So Morningside over under. Morningside over under. Do they get a defensive score in this game? So we've got the over under at 0.5 defensive scores. They're either going to get one or they're not. So there's the pick here. The defense. Do they smell blood in the water? And they're going to go ahead and get a defensive score against Doane. All right, let's go to our comments here. Thought I was putting up Robert's comment just a moment ago, and I wasn't. Sorry about that. Jeff says the defense is playing well. Can't bet on 2 good performances. You can take the under there. I would say, in our euphemistic way of saying things here, that this is a favorable matchup for Morningside. All right. Jeff is taking the defense under. Dave, yeah, the defense is going to score. The Morningside D will score. All right. Robert's coming back. Let's see if anyone else has one here. Lenny, want to take a shot at this one? Anyone else want a shot at this one? Got that Morningside defense. See, this is where you get an opportunity to cheer for that defense. Ugh. Over. There we go. All right. I was wondering if this line would have any action at all. I think it's a good line there. And I'll tell you what, guys, over the years in watching Morningside in the last, 6, 7, 8 years in getting to see how the Mustangs do, that's how long I've been really, really into the NAIA portion of the football. Been a D2 guy for a number of years, really been following the NAIA for that amount of time as well. And Morningside's defense has always been underrated. So I'm going to go with the over and say they're not underrated here. Can they get a defensive score? Yes, they get another defensive score. I'm going on record. They get another defensive score. And by the way, this could be a scoop and score. This could be in a pick 6. It could also be a blocked extra point or a field goal, taking it in for the score. So a defensive score of some kind, and Robert's going to get his pick in there as well. All right. I thought there were no Morningside. We picked on Morningside after all. So, all right. That's valid. That is valid. Looked good against Concordia. So there we go. All right. Last one here, and we wrap things up for the night with this one. You may have seen it already. We have an over-under of points. These are two high-scoring teams and two teams that are putting up a lot, top 10 in scoring in the NAIA this year, and those two teams are Indiana Wesleyan and Taylor. So we have a fairly high, not as high as the one last week, but we have a fairly high over-under total bet here. Okay, now that Friends Southwestern one last week was ridiculous at 79.5. We're putting this one at just 79. And for whatever reason, it doesn't want to scroll. Sorry about that. Doesn't like scrolling. It'll just stay there on the bottom. Here we go. Indiana Wesleyan at Taylor, 71.5 points. Was this the game that kept Taylor out of the playoffs last year? This one's in Upland, so it's a home game for the Trojans. Two different scoring, two different offensive outlooks. One a prolific passing team, the other a prolific rushing team. Can they put 71.5 points on the board in a game like this? Does someone's defense step up either? All right, it's open for the picks now. Final one of the night. Go ahead and yeah, let's, okay, just put IWU. That's fine. IWU over under. IWU over under. And Jeff has the over on this one. I think they're going to get more points. They're high-scoring teams. Offenses, by the way, that put up a ton of yards. And I can go back and let me go back and read those numbers really quickly. Indiana Wesleyan, 352.1 passing yards per game. Taylor, 301.8 rushing yards per game. And both of those numbers are second, respectively, in the nation in the NAIA. I didn't mention, by the way, this was a stat I didn't throw out there. Let me throw this one out there, too, and see if this affects what you do. Jeff's already taken the over. Indiana Wesleyan is putting up 27 first downs per game. Taylor, 26.9 first downs per game. So they move the ball. I mean, these are two teams that just flat out move the ball, put up a ton of yards a game. Do they have enough in the tank? Last week, Indiana Wesleyan scored 56. Last week, Taylor scored 63. IWU over or under, and Dave says under. Just said those two teams scored 119 a game. Jeff's taking the over. Lenny is taking the under. IWU, and I don't know if Robert is back in time to do part of the live chat tonight, so I'll go ahead and post mine. I think they're two very, very good scoring teams. I mean, I would be shocked if this game went under 71.5. But I'm going to go with under on this one. I'm taking under. I don't know why. I think there could be a ton of points in this game. I'll be surprised if it's under, but just a feeling that it goes under. So I want to go on record, so I'm there in the comments as well. Let's hide that and get that off the screen. We don't need that one, that one on there anymore. That's going to look bad if they, put up 50 points apiece in this game. Big week ahead of us. All right. And we made it in less than an hour. The voice made it through all the way through. I will tell you, though, I could feel it at certain points in time. It's just weird. It's only been sitting down this chair, and I don't think I have mold in the studio or anything like that. So I don't know what's going on, but anyway, that is all right. I know that a number of you are going to be watching that Morningside game. There are some games I have to go back and watch on the replay, and that's one of them. We're going to be in Wichita. I am really looking forward to this trip. This is one that I really wanted to make last year and didn't get to do it for a couple of reasons. And one of those was the fact that my daughter was a senior in high school and she was a lead in a play. And you know what? It was a one-time performance, and I simply was not missing my daughter's senior year and being the lead in that high school performance. So stayed at home on that one, but I put it on the calendar the next year that I was going to make this first weekend in November Friends home game. And so we're definitely going to make that this time around. And I thought Jolie would be able to do this, but guess what? It's homecoming here in Durant on Saturday. Southeastern is having homecoming. So the Twins are going to be there at homecoming. They'll be performing. I, however, will be in Wichita for this one. It's not the same. They're going to be singing as part of a group. So I don't feel like I'm letting them down on that one, but that's all right. All right. To the comment section tonight as we wrap things up. Lenny, thanks for watching. Thanks for being there for a super chat as well. I appreciate that. I've been enjoying getting to see your name come up in all that's going on there. Dave, always a privilege to get to see your name come up as well. Fun stuff tonight. I hope we have fun every single week. We'll be back live again on Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock Central. Lots of drive time in there for me, so bear with me on that one. It's about a 5-hour trip. And I am telling you guys, I hope, Dave, this is what I would say, because for Jeff, I know that offensive lineman's going to be there for a year or two. That wide receiver is listed as a junior, and I'm really, really, really hoping that there's a Sioux City trip in 2026. That is one of our goals. I just want to let you know. I hope that is the case. So, all right. Jeff as well. Love hanging out with the Mustang family from Utah tonight. Well, this is the way to get to hang out with those folks who'll say roll Stangs along with you. All right. Saturday, either 11 or 11:30, possibly sometime in between. And we're going to have lots of content from Wichita. So keep that in mind. We'll be live from Wichita on Saturday morning and then live again from the studio once again on Sunday. In the meantime, I have already changed the graphic, and I know that it is scheduled to play tonight. So we're going to check one more time the outro. It is there. We have a couple of new folks who are members of the channel tonight and definitely want to get their names on there as well. You guys have a great weekend. Shout out to you and to all of your teams. I hope that every team has success on the field, and it's just a lot of fun on Saturday. And, oh, by the way, the Vols hosting the Sooners. That's my D1 game on that one. Go Vols in that one. It's dark mode in Neyland Stadium. God bless you all. You guys have a great, great night. We'll talk again on Saturday morning from Wichita.